Hello everyone, welcome back to this wonderful series of lectures during this astronomy week organized by Astro Club of Ferguson College. I am Asal Dikshit and now let's continue this series with mine and almost everyone's favorite topic, black holes and neutron stars. This is flow of our talk. First, we will see the introduction to space-time with the help of Euclidean geometry and Lorentz geometry. And we will see the curvature of space-time fabric by mass. Then we will see the concept of black holes. Then understand Schwarzschild radius of black holes. Then we will see how many types of black holes are there and about Hawking radiations which causes evaporation of black holes. Then we will see what if sun is replaced by a black hole, and then Chandrasekhar limit. After that we will see about neutron stars and their formation, and we will also learn the properties of neutron stars and their types as pulsars and magnetars. At last we will see the collision of black hole and neutron star, who will win among them. So watch till the end. We all might have heard that mass curves the space-time around it. But what space-time actually is? Now let's understand this with the help of Euclidean geometry. With the help of x and y direction, we can generate whole two-dimensional space. In this graph, you can see path AB and path CD. Which one is shorter? Obviously AB. So light will follow path AB instead of CD. It was assumed that light requires a medium to propagate, which was considered to be ether. Ether was basically assumed to be a massless and spaceless medium. According to this concept, time was absolute. But after Einstein disapproves the concept of luminiferous ether, time evolved as a new fourth dimension which changes with respect to frame of reference. As time is now a new parameter here, we can say that both space and time are not absolute. So we can consider that both space and time are part of single entity called space-time. To explain space-time, new form of geometry called Lorentz geometry was used. It follows a different type of Pythagoras theorem. As you know, light always follows shortest path, but in this space-time, light will follow CD because of the curvature in space-time, which will be the shortest for light. The curvature in space-time is because of the introduction of mass. This picture you can see the bending of space-time with respect to the masses. More mass of the body, it bends more the space-time and the curvature is more. Less mass of the body bends the space-time lesser than the heavier object. Now let's understand how the concept of black holes came. It all came when we thought more about escape velocity. Escape velocity is basically minimum speed needed to escape from a gravitational influence of a massive body. For example, for Earth, escape velocity is about 11.6 kilometers per second, and for Sun, escape velocity is about 618 kilometers per second. If we try to escape Earth's gravitational influence from a higher position, then the escape velocity will be lesser. Some stars have escape velocity in range of thousands and lakhs. If we compress Earth to a smaller radius, it means it will increase the escape velocity. So there must be something which have escape velocity equals to or greater than speed of light. That's what black holes are. Black holes are the region in space-time where gravitational influence is so strong that no mass, not even electromagnetic radiations like light can escape from it. Means its escape velocity is greater than the speed of light. According to general theory of relativity, sufficient compact mass can deform space-time to form a black hole. Black holes basically form when a star dies in a supernova explosion, and if its remnant is greater than the 3 solar masses, which is 3 times the mass of our sun, then it forms a black hole. Due to very high gravitational pull of black holes, these attract the hydrogen and helium from the nearby stars. Because of the frictional and gravitational force, the gas gets heated, and that's when accretion disk is formed around the black hole. In this picture you can see the accretion disk. This black hole is attracting hydrogen and helium from the nearby star. Here is a schematic diagram of a black hole. You can see event horizon. It's the boundary after which nothing can escape, not even light. At the center of black hole there is gravitational singularity. It's a one-dimensional point which contains a huge mass in an infinitely small space where density and gravity becomes infinite and space-time bends infinitely. And this is where the laws of physics which we all know cease to operate. Here you can see accretion disk, event horizon, singularity at the center, and Schwarzschild radius of this black hole. We have seen Schwarzschild radius in the previous slide. So what is it? It's the limiting radius where escape velocity reaches the speed of light. Means not even light can escape this radius. It's equals to the 2 into gm by c square, where g is universal gravitational constant, m is mass of that object, and c is speed of light. Here in this table you can see objects and their Schwarzschild radius respectively. If we compress Earth into a Schwarzschild radius of about 0.9 centimeter, which is even smaller than a ball, then it will have a escape velocity equals to the speed of light. If we want Sun to have a escape velocity speed of light, then we have to compress Sun into a radius of about 3 kilometers. Before proceeding further, you have to admit that black holes are neither black nor holes. Not every star can become a black hole. It needs to be about 10 times bigger than our Sun to be a black hole. The dying star keeps shrinking and sucking everything into it until even light can escape from it. Hence, black holes are formed. Scientists think that black holes can be as small as the size of an atom and have a mass of about a mountain. According to their masses, we can classify black holes into three parts. First are stellar mass black holes. These black holes have a mass of about 3 to 10 times solar masses. We can find dozens of stellar mass black holes in a galaxy. Second are intermediate mass black holes. These black holes have 100 to 1000 solar masses. Third one are supermassive black holes. These black holes have mass of about billions or billion solar masses. It's considered that these supermassive black holes are found at the center of every galaxy. In our Milky Way galaxy, at the center, we have a supermassive black hole which we have named Sagittarius A star. Black holes have no hair. The no-hair theorems for black holes states that black holes can be completely described by only three parameters, which are mass, angular momentum, and their electric charge. Evaporation of black holes. Black holes do evaporate. According to quantum mechanics, for every particle in the universe, there exists its antiparticle. These particles always exist in pairs and continuously pop in and out of their existence. These particles do not last long because as soon as they come into existence, they annihilate each other and cease their existence. Evaporation of black holes. Black holes do evaporate. According to quantum mechanics, for every particle in the universe, there exists its antiparticle. These particles always exist in pairs and continuously pop in and out of their existence. These particles do not last long because as soon as they come into existence, they annihilate each other and cease their existence. But things become different at the boundary of black holes' event horizons. If a virtual particle blip into existence very close to the event horizon, then the one particle will fall into the black hole and the other particle will escape. The one that falls into the black holes will effectively have negative energy, which is in layman terms. The other particle that has escaped the black hole will have a positive energy and that's referred as a Hawking radiation. So what this Hawking radiation affects on black hole? Due to presence of these Hawking radiations, black hole continues to lose its mass and continues to shrink to a point until it loses all of its mass and evaporates. As we have seen, time is a fourth dimension. It changes with respect to the reference. Time dilation is the slowing of time. Time slows around massive objects. The most common example is GPS satellites. GPS satellites help to correct the fact that time slows down very slightly at the Earth's surface as compared to the geosynchronous orbit where satellites are revolving around Earth. As time slows around massive objects because of their higher gravity, If we go near the black hole, time will slow down as we go near the black hole, and when we reach event horizon, the object will freeze. We can't see what is happening because light cannot escape from it. So the time dilation becomes infinite at the event horizon as there is much more gravity. Now, one question arises in everyone's mind. What would happen to Earth if Sun is replaced by a black hole of same mass? Will it be sucked into the black hole, or it would be ejected from the solar system, or its orbit around the black hole will be exactly same as it's now around the Sun? If you know this answer in the comment section and explain it to your friends. As we know that not every star can become a black hole. So what's the criteria? The criteria is that if the collapsing core of the star has mass greater than 3 solar masses, then only it can become a black hole. And here comes the Chandrasekhar limit, which says that up to 1.4 solar masses of collapsing core of star, it can become a white dwarf, which you have already seen in the previous lecture. But what happens in between 1.4 solar masses and 3 solar masses? Here, neutron stars are formed. If the collapsing core of a dying star have mass of about 1.4 solar masses and 3 solar masses in between, it will form a neutron star. So, what are neutron stars? Neutron stars are basically collapsed core of a giant star. This form when the collapsing core is more massier than the Chandrasekhar limit, which is 1.4 solar masses. As the name suggests, neutron stars are primarily made up of neutrons. With enough force, protons and electrons combine to form neutrons and neutrinos. Neutrinos are super fast and lucid, so they just fly off. But the neutron stays behind, leaving behind a big ball of neutrons. Gravity continues to squeeze the neutrons, but eventually hits a wall. Here comes the Pauli's exclusion principle, which says roughly that no two particles can occupy same space at same time. Hence, neutron stars are formed. Neutron stars can rotate very rapidly, very rapidly. This can rotate about 1000 rotations per second. This is because the original stellar core was rotating, and as it collapses, its size decreases and its rotation speed increases. When it gets shrunk, its rotation speed increases to conserve the angular momentum. Here is what we call a meme. So the boy is asking the girl, which is a dying star, what do you want to become, a black hole or a neutron star? So the girl, which is a dying star, having remnant mass less than 3 solar masses, then the boy says she will become a neutron star. Let's see the properties of a neutron star. A neutron star can have a radius of about 10 km, which is roughly a size of a city. And what about density? Its density is so much higher that if we put a sprinkle of neutron star on one side of seesaw and all, all humans on the other side of seesaw, then the weight of neutron star will be more than the all humans. So if you are fat, don't feel that you are fat. In this picture, you can see the comparison here: Earth, white dwarf, and neutron star. See, neutron star is like a dot in comparison with the Earth. Now let's see the structure of neutron star. The outermost layer of the neutron star is called its atmosphere. It mostly contains hot plasma. The second layer is called outer crust. It's about 200 meter deep and contains fluid or solid lattice of heavy nuclei. Here, pressure from degenerate electrons. The third layer is called its inner crust. It's about 600 meter deep and it contains superfluid of free electrons. Here also pressure from degenerate electrons. The fourth layer is called outer core. It contains superfluid neutrons and a small number of superconducting protons. Here, pressure is mainly supplied by degenerate neutrons. The last and the innermost layer is called inner core. But uncertainly, we don't know what's inside there, but it may be a solid core consisting elementary particles with very high density. Now, let's move on to pulsars. Pulsars are highly magnetized and rotating neutron stars. These pulsars emit a beam of electromagnetic radiations. These radiations can only be observed when the beam is pointing towards the Earth. As you can see, the radiation beam is not aligned with the rotational axis, so it swipes out like a lighthouse beam. That's why the pulsars are called cosmic lighthouses. During the formation of these neutron stars, which are called pulsar, the stellar core collapses, it conserves its angular momentum. That's why this pulsar get very rapid spin. Here is a picture of very first discovered pulsar. It was observed in Crab Nebula, that's why it's also called Crab pulsar. This pulsar is a remnant of supernova explosion which took place in 1054 and it was widely observed in that year. This pulsar was discovered on 1968. Seeing this image of pulsar, you can imagine how fast it is rotating. Magnetars are also another type of neutron stars which have an extremely powerful magnetic field. These are considered to be world's most powerful magnets. The magnetic field decay powers the emission of high energy electromagnetic waves. These electromagnetic waves particularly include X-rays and gamma rays. So now we know much about black holes and neutron stars. So what would happen if black holes and neutron star collide? Who will win, black hole or neutron star? To understand this, let me show you a video. How was it? Wasn't it amazing? At the end, I would like to thank my friend Abhishek Kulkarni for helping me in this video. And if you learned something from this video, please like, share and subscribe our YouTube channel Astro Club FC. For more updates on this astronomy week, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And you can also join our Telegram group. Link in description.